What is asset protection? You probably heard the phrase like 100 times, and you must have heard online that it's some kind of offshore trick, or an advisor might have told you it's like tax magic. Or perhaps you've heard it's only for the ultra rich, like something you need only when you already have millions and millions of dollars. Let me tell you the truth. Asset protection means just keeping what you've already earned lawfully, safely, and always available for you and your family, no matter what happens. And depending on who you are, what happens next can mean three very different things. Some people are afraid of losing their savings to healthcare costs or accidents. Others fear losing it to a lawsuit. And some just don't want the government involved in their family's money when they're gone. I call these the three front lines of protection: the care trap, the courtroom threat, and the bureaucratic grab. My name is Douglas Lodmell, and for almost 30 years I've been helping people protect their assets legally so that no matter what happens, they're safe when things go south. Let's walk through each one of these. The care trap. What happens with your money when you actually do need long-term care? Well, every state and the federal government have rules that are imposed that create a system for how much of your money you can keep before you get aid from the government. There are two systems. There is Medicaid and Medicare. Medicaid is for people who do not have enough, so it's like a welfare. Medicare is for everybody who's paid into the system. So your parents or your grandparents and you yourself are going to have Medicare, which is basically health insurance provided by the government. Well, provided through your self-employment tax over many years of working, but managed by the government. Medicaid, on the other hand, is like a welfare program. And at least as of today, it still exists. And for many people, this is their biggest fear because nursing home costs can be $10,000 to $20,000 a month. And so that can eat through someone's life savings very quickly. So many people are looking for a way to protect those assets so that Medicaid does not take them. In other words, you don't have to spend them down before Medicaid kicks in. Well, there's some rules that you have to follow, and they are complicated and they are different in every state. But as a general guideline, think of it this way. There's a 5-year look back, which means that if you give away all your assets today and you wait 5 years and then you apply for Medicaid, there's no problem. You're not going to have any issue because more than 5 years ago, you gave your assets away. Now, if you're within that 5 years, there are all sorts of ways in which you can still give some of the assets away, save a portion of them, use certain tools like income-only trusts, insurance can be used, etc. So how this is done is very dependent on what state you live in and what your personal situation is. But know that it can be done. And planning for Medicaid is a very important part of your financial planning, because healthcare costs are definitely one of the single greatest things that can destroy your wealth before you die. One important thing to remember, though, is a revocable living trust, which is a fine tool for estate planning, is not a Medicaid protection plan. In order for you to actually protect your assets from Medicaid, you need to give them away. Now, you can retain some beneficial interest in them. For example, you could retain a life estate in your home and give your home away, and that would, in most circumstances, not be included in your Medicaid estate. You could also give the assets to a trust, a special type of trust called an income-only trust, where you retain the right to the income, but not the right to the underlying assets. This can be very effective in protecting those assets if you need to apply for Medicaid. But whatever it is, I can tell you for sure that you need to do it consciously. You can't just do it willy-nilly, and you can't do it at the last second. So if this is something that you need to think about, you should think about it now. Well before you're sick, well before you're too old, and well before you actually need to use it. The threat of long-term care is slow. You can see it coming. But this kind of risk doesn't give you the luxury of time because it's like a frog that is put into water and then slowly boiled. That's the worst kind. That's actually the most risk because you don't see it coming. It happens in a moment. And all of a sudden, you need the care and you haven't done the planning. So you need to plan now. The threat of long-term care is slow, and you can see it coming. And while this is a danger in itself, like the frog put in the water and the heat turned on so that you miss it, at least you do see it coming. The next kind of risk doesn't give you that luxury. It happens in a moment. A car accident, a contract dispute, a patient claim, a tenant injury. That's when asset protection stops being about health or age and becomes about liability. And the question changes from how much can I keep to how fast can they reach me? The courtroom threat. Let me explain how a lawsuit actually plays out in real time. When you get sued, the plaintiff's attorney on the other side is often working on a contingent fee, meaning they're only going to get paid if they collect from you. So they're looking for two things. One, is there any insurance? If there is insurance, that's an immediate win for them because insurance does pay. Insurance is very effective and they can write checks, but they also fight. The second thing they're looking for is, do you have assets? Can you be reached? Are you safe? And between those two, they make a decision right then and there whether they're going to proceed with an aggressive assault on you or whether they're going to go for a quick and dirty settlement with either the insurance company or the defendant. Your job is to make sure you do not look attractive. You want to be well insulated. So ideally, you have both good insurance and good asset protection. They work hand in glove. They work together. Insurance gives you something to give them. In other words, it's the carrot. It is giving you also legal defense. So your insurance is going to provide some kind of settlement option, some kind of money the insurance company can offer them to give them a reason to take it and go away. And it's going to give you the threat, the very real credible threat that, hey, if you don't want that, we have insurance and we're going to defend this all the way to the end. Asset protection gives you something that insurance can't, which is it takes your current assets and takes them off the table. They work best when used together. So let me give an example. You have a claim against you. It's a potential $5 million claim, and you have $1 million of insurance. That's good. However, if they have a potential $5 million claim, are they really going to walk away from a $4 million excess judgment? Well, the answer is no, not if they see the money. However, when they do their research, if they find that you do have the assets, but they can't reach them, now insurance starts to look attractive. And here's the thing, your insurance company is not going to settle with them without your approval. And you're not going to give your approval unless you get a full release from any other claims beyond the insurance. That's the trick. You control whether the insurance company settles or doesn't settle. And this is a very important thing for you to understand. Since you control that, you can dictate the terms that you're not going to settle unless there's a full release. Well, why are they going to give you a full release? They're going to give you a full release because they looked behind the insurance and what they saw was assets that they can't reach. Why can't they reach them? Because you had your immunity stack in place. You had LLCs for real estate, you had a limited partnership as a holding company, and you had the bridge trust, which acts as the ultimate escape if you have true threat to your wealth. When they see that, they take the insurance. And that's your goal. You want them to settle for the insurance limits or less. And that's true asset protection. The courtroom threat is easy to see. Someone sues, you fight back. But there's another kind of loss that doesn't make the headlines and that comes from someone much bigger than you. Most of the times you can't even fight. And it's completely legal and people suffer every day because of it. It's what happens to your estate when it passes through the system. Probate, taxes, fees, delays. That's what I call the bureaucratic grab. So when you die, what really happens to your estate when you go through probate? Well, probate is a public process. If you have a will, your executor, the person you've named in the will, often a family member, could be an attorney, will file your will with the probate court, and you will then open a probate. This is an opportunity for creditors to come and make claims against the estate. It's also the time when you contact your CPA or the CPA that can deal with this estate. It's also the time when the CPA files a 706 estate tax return. So probate is public. It gives a chance for creditors to make a claim against the estate, and it also is the time when you file your estate tax return, which is where you're going to calculate the value of your estate and you're going to pay estate taxes. Estate taxes can be very high, over 50% of the estate. And while the exemptions right now are also fairly high, 25 million plus for a married couple, if you do exceed it, you will pay a serious penalty. So how do you avoid this? Well, two things. You can avoid probate simply by not dying with a will alone. You should die with a trust and with a immunity stack in place, which means LLCs for your real estate, a limited partnership for your assets, which include the LLCs, as well as your financial assets, and then a bridge trust for ultimate protection. With a trust, you do not need to go through probate. Your estate does not die because the trust does not die. Your successor trustee, if you were serving as trustee, simply takes over and has immediate access to the assets of the trust. And then they can manage them and distribute them as makes sense and as you have left the instructions in your trust. So the probate part is easy. The estate tax part is more difficult. For estate taxes, you need to plan. You need to determine if you do have an estate tax issue. And by the way, if you have insurance, insurance is included in your estate if it's not structured properly. So let's say you have a $20 million estate and you have another $10 million of insurance. If it's not structured correctly, you now have a $30 million estate, which is going to get taxed. And that will put you over the estate tax exemption amount. So For probate, use a trust. Ideally, you want a bridge trust in combination with your estate planning trust. And for estate taxes, advanced planning. Well, now you know what asset protection really is. And that's good, because now you understand it isn't a loophole or some offshore trick the elites use to just hide money. And the reasons people can face lawsuits without fearing to lose everything, it's completely legal. And it's the reason people can face a lawsuit without the fear of losing everything. But knowing this also comes with responsibility, because once you understand how the system works, you have two choices. You can keep everything exactly as it is, your name on the titles, your accounts exposed, and you can keep trusting luck, hope, and fairness to protect you. Or you can act, and you can build a structure that actually holds when life doesn't go your way. You can protect your business, your home, and your savings before someone else makes that decision for you. So if you want to take control of your assets and wealth, you'll find a link in the description to book an asset protection analysis. It's completely free, and it might be the most important step you've ever taken regarding your wealth. Remember, it's your money,